confident. Chinese Deputy Finance Minister Zhu Guangyo photo opened the political realm. However, she enjoys advantages that may allow him to cope with the economic fallout far better than Trump can. His authoritarian grip on the news media and the party means there is little room for criticism of his policies, even as Trump must contend with complaints from U.S. companies and consumers before important midterm elections in November. The Chinese government also has much greater control over the economy, allowing it to shield the public from job cuts or factory closings by ordering banks to support industries suffering from U.S. tariffs. It can spread the pain of a trade war while tolerating years of losses from state-run companies that dominate major sectors of the economy. My impression is that there is in Washington an exaggerated sense of how painful these tariffs might be in China, said Arthur R. Kroeber, managing director of Gavical Dragonomics, a research firm in Beijing. At worst, he estimated, the U.S. actions could shave 1/10 of a percentage point off China's economic growth, hardly enough to force a drastic reversal of policies, given the enormous benefits that Chinese leaders see in the state-heavy economic model they have relied on in recent decades. At the same time, Chinese officials seem to believe they can take advantage of what they consider vulnerabilities in the U.S. political system. China has thanked American farmers for their opposition to Trump's tariffs photo. AP, the American agricultural sector is quite influential in the Congress, said Wang Yang, a professor of economics at Peking University, explaining why China has targeted farm products such as soybeans with possible retaliatory tariffs. China wants the American domestic political system to do the work, noting there are already signs it might. Hours after China's announcement on Wednesday, Trump administration officials sought to calm fears that a trade war was imminent, suggesting that they might not pull the trigger on a plan to impose tariffs on $50 billion in Chinese goods such as flat-screen televisions, medical devices and industrial machinery. Speaking earlier in the day, Zhu, the Vice Minister of Finance, even thanked American soybean farmers and the association that represents them for declaring their opposition to the Trump administration's plan. In addition to soybeans, China threatened to retaliate with tariffs on American cars, chemicals and other products. The 106 goods, many produced in parts of the country that have supported Trump, were selected to deliver a warning that American workers and consumers would suffer in a protracted standoff. Globally, China's strategy has been to isolate the United States, splitting it from allies in Europe and Asia who otherwise share U.S. concerns about heavy-handed Chinese trade policies intended to protect key markets and to acquire technology from foreign firms. Kroeber said a united front against China would be more effective than U.S. tariffs alone, but so far Trump has not managed to build one. Instead, she has largely succeeded in occupying the high moral ground on the world stage, projecting China as the sober-minded steward of international agreements on issues, from global trade to climate change, that Trump has been eager to walk away from. U.S. President Donald Trump photo, Bloomberg, the American side is ready to launch a trade war at the slightest pretext, the party's flagship newspaper, People's Daily, wrote in a blistering editorial on Thursday, condemning Trump's tariffs as totally against the trend of economic globalization. Today, it targets China, and tomorrow may take aim at other countries, it said. The party has also seized on the trade dispute as new evidence that the United States is intent on undermining China's rise as a global power, a central narrative used to justify the party's, and Xi's, rule. In December, the state news media also highlighted the new national security strategy unveiled by the Trump administration, which declared that China sought to displace the United States in the Indo-Pacific region, expand the reaches of its state-driven economic model, and reorder the region in its favor. The document signaled a bipartisan shift in Washington's posture toward China after decades of economic cooperation and concessions. The party has argued that the United States is only now challenging China because it fears losing its privileged place in the world order. The latest U.S. measures against China carry a sense of containment, which purportedly is commonplace among U.S. politicians, said an editorial in Global Times, a nationalist, state-run tabloid. But they have overlooked the fact that China has grown to be another economic center of the world. It went on to note that China's market was now no smaller or less attractive than the American one, a bit of an exaggeration perhaps, but not as big as it would have been a decade ago. And that makes the country a more formidable opponent than Trump may have anticipated. To take China down, the editorial said, would mean an unimaginably cruel battle for the U.S. New York Times.